Next topic, Sound of Freedom. Have you seen the movie yet?
So a lot of people have asked me this.
Yeah.
As a new mom, I don't think I can emotionally handle it just
Okay,
because of the
that's fair.
subject matter. And I cry during Pixar movies. I'd be a total mess.
Well, have you seen Elemental?
Yes, I did get it. I didn't even like the movie. I got teary-eyed. I'm very, very easy.
So I saw the movie. So here's what happens. We're in Bahamas, and we're trying to find a movie theater to go see this. We can't find it. Finally, Tikram finds the movie, and we're like, shit, we're going with 25 of us, and the kids want to watch Indiana Jones. What do we do? So Indiana Jones is playing at 1 o'clock. Sound of Freedom's playing at 2 o'clock. Good news, Indiana Jones is a 2.5-hour movie, which is great because we got like a 30 minutes. So we go into Indiana Jones. We're watching Indiana Jones, and then me, Matt Sapala, Sheena, Tikram, we sneak out, and we go to watch Sound of Freedom. We're sitting there. And from the beginning, you're going to feel the pain of the father taking his kids, a daughter and a son, who is approached by a recruiter saying, your kids can be models, they can be in movies. He says, tonight, audition is at such and such time. Today, tomorrow's audition is such and such time. Father dresses in a suit, takes them to this room, and he takes the kids there. They're excited. Put the kids in the room, and the girl says, come back to pick them up at 7 o'clock. He says, what do you mean? Come back to pick them up at 7 o'clock. He leaves, comes back 7 o'clock. No one's there.
Shut down.
That's how the movie starts.
Yeah.
By the way, it's disturbing. It's emotional. It's tough. It's painful. At the end, Jim Caviezel gives a message. When the movie ends, 3 minutes later, he's given a message, profound message that you have to watch. The stats that they gave, that 20+ million child pornography pictures were uploaded on the internet the last year, a 5,000% increase in the last 5 years. The idea where they said every year 2 million kids go into trafficking, going into being sold in the black market, and then stats about how you can sell cocaine one time, but you can sell the same child 5 to 10 times a day for 10 years is what you can do. And it's a $150 billion a year industry. And Jim is in it, the story of Tim Ballard, what he did. And then while this is going on, everybody needs to go watch it. I want to watch it first. It's a decision you need to make. I want to watch it first. I know what it is to be I don't know what it is to be a mother, but I have a wife that's had 4 kids, and I know how tough it is for a mother to see it than a father. Our perspective is more protective. Mm-hmm. Yours is more, you gave birth, it's your body. I recommend everybody to go watch this thing here and share it with everyone you know, because this is really taking place. This led us to yesterday having a conversation with many of the people in Glendale that are going through the challenges they're having with GUSD. We did the Zoom yesterday. We're excited about launching the event in Glendale. The biggest concern right now is every major hotel will announce what these places are, and we'll give the names out so people know, has said no. Every Armenian hall in Glendale has said, come and do the event on what's going on with LAUSD and GUSD, with what kind of content they're trying to put in the schools. And we will announce the date here very soon. First, we're going to announce it underground because we want the right people to show up. Then I'll announce it publicly. And everyone's worried about, rioting, protesting, all this other stuff. Here's the point. While this movie comes out and it's doing so well, can you show up how Rolling Stone responded to, I send you those different screenshots when I airdropped it to you, what Rolling Stone said about cuties versus this, what different platforms said about cuties versus this. And by the way, while you're looking for that, maybe show the clip of the video of what the CNN person said about this, if you know which one I'm talking about, where the CNN is asking a question. So what do you think about this movie? There's a lot of people that are saying that there's some right-wing QAnon, what do you think about this? And this guest, you should see what this guest right there, if we can make that bigger, you should see what this guest says about this movie.
Pretty familiar with him.
Watch this.
Can we play this?
Of course.
Yeah,
Watch this.
And you seem pretty familiar with him because he doesn't really hide his association with this real wild plot that involves, drinking the blood of children and things like that.
No, he doesn't hide it at all. And you have a lot of people who are in this world of QAnon who say, oh, they don't know what that is. They've never heard of it. They're just asking questions. With somebody like Jim Caviezel, he is openly embracing it. He's openly using its catchphrases and its concepts. He's speaking at QAnon conventions. And this film is being marketed to either specific QAnon believers or to people who believe all of the same tenets as QAnon, but claim they don't know what it is.
And The Sound of Freedom does focus on a real issue of sex trafficking. But that theme it's sort of like that kernel of truth that feeds the QAnon conspiracy theory. Tell us how those two things work together.
Sure. And the most durable and the most believable conspiracy theories are not entirely false. There's something in them that is true and the rest of it is false. But the believers point to the one true thing and they say, oh, you don't believe that this particular thing is true. In terms of child trafficking, we know trafficking is real. We know it has real victims. No one is denying that. But these films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear. And with something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites and only people like Tim Ballard and only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down. So there's a very participatory element. You're not just going to see a movie, you're just killing 2 hours on a hot day. You are helping bring down these pedophile rings and save children. Now, it's not true, but it's a very comforting and it's a very warm feeling.
You know why you have to trust this guy, Pat? He has books behind him. Anybody that sits with books,
Smart.
But notice it. If you work out, you're a white you're a white supremacist, whatever. If you're, by the way, this movie was like they actually have footage of everything that happened of Tim Ballard because it happened.
Did you see the movie?
I saw the movie.
Oh, you saw it? Wow.
I saw the movie, and I was telling Pat some crazy moments are where they actually had footage, undercover footage or surveillance footage of people in third world countries and stuff going up to people like a kid wanders in the street. They grab them in a van and they're gone. It's not a conspiracy theorist. And then it begs the question when people are like, why does one side want open borders? And why if you think about it, Pat, there's a fact. 350,000 unaccompanied minors come across the border since 2021 till right now. 85,000 of them have gone missing. And then that begs the question, why is one side just like, no, the border's secure. Mayorkas, that little rat. No, the border's open. That is just an inventory of just human beings coming in. And it's like for them to say that it's QAnon and it's fake, it's like they don't want people messing with their influx of children. It's a huge problem. And yes, they made money off this movie, but now look how many people are talking about sex trafficking and these kids, and at least somebody now is opening their mouth. And by the way, this movie was made 5 years ago. I don't know if you guys, this movie's old. Now
which movie?
Sound of Freedom. Yeah.
Nobody wanted to put it out. Go ahead, Lauren. Go ahead.
Well, it was made by Fox before the Disney acquisition. So then Disney, they essentially didn't release it. They didn't want to release it. They sold it to this other studio, and the studio actually had to crowdfund to get a theatrical release. So that's kind of what's ironic about the fact that it did beat Indiana Jones, at least for one weekend, is that this could have been money going to Disney, but it's also kind of suspicious. Why didn't Disney want to release this movie? Was it not in line with their branding?
And by the way, isn't Disney a kids channel? Isn't it like about kids and protecting kids? So why wouldn't you want to protect kids worldwide? Isn't that kind of weird?
Perhaps they don't really want to.
And isn't it shocking, Lauren, that they're talking all this stuff about conspiracy? Are you trying to act like Epstein didn't have an island and flew people?
Yeah, that we know this for a fact that this happened?
He was murdered. Don't believe the hype. He was suicided himself. That's all bullshit. CNN producers getting caught left and right for pedophilia. The numbers are staggering. It's in the news. It's not reported a lot. And just perverted people, Pat, To Catch a Predator. Do you guys know that show?
Yes.
Disgusting.
We had Chris Hansen on here.
Guess what? That show can run every single day for forever because there's no shortage of pedophiles. The only reason that show stopped is because one of these idiot demons ran in the house and killed himself.
And that's what's frustrating about that CNN guy. He's acting like moral outrage over this is bad or unwarranted. He's asking as if, it's to spread fear. Yeah, you should be afraid for your children. You should be actively trying to prevent this. Why is moral outrage bad when this is something that's objectively evil?
This is an area to be intolerant in, like zero tolerance for this. By the way, watch this. So Rolling Stone. Look how different the titles are. Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. The QAnon thing, the thriller about child trafficking, is designed to appeal the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer. Okay, pretty wild. Now let's go to the next one. Watch this next one here. The Guardian. Cuties review. Netflix's controversial child exploitation film is bold, flawed, and misunderstood. Misunderstood. Okay, so here's the next one. Cuties review. A coming-of-age movie caught in the culture wars. Thanks to a major marketing mistake, this award-winning French movie has been accused of sexualizing girls. It's actually a sensitive portrait of growing pains that deserve to be seen. Are you kidding me? Go to the next one. Okay, the human traffic film Sound of Freedom trashed by liberal outlets as QAnon adjacent. So when you see this, then go to the article about post-millennial that talks about, if you can pull this up, that talks about Rolling Stone editor-in-chief spiked reporting on friend getting arrested for child porn. Oh. This was a story from March of 21st of this year. If you want to go to page 24, if you can pull that up, that picture right there, good. That's the article right there. I'll read it to you. So Rolling Stone editor-in-chief Noah Shachtman removed references to child pornography charges from a story about ABC's producer James Gordon Meek, who was later charged with possessing child pornography. Shachtman, who was friendly with Meek, edited the piece and urged journalist Tatiana Siegel not to include the words child pornography in the story, claiming that the FBI's interest in Meek was unrelated to national security or journalism. Shachtman's decision to edit the story and remove key information about the child pornography investigation raised concerns within Rolling Stone. Siegel was reportedly not aware of the changes until the article was published and was angered by what she saw as interference. Shachtman justified his edits by stating that Siegel had not adequately verified her sources. When you read this stuff, this is what we ought to be intolerant towards.
Right, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the meme from Oren McIntyre, don't make me tap the sign, and it's just this post that says, it's not that complicated, they just want to diddle kids. And I think we all have a normalcy bias where we would like to think this is just not that common, shadowy, it doesn't really affect our lives, but this is, like you said, it's everywhere, it's very common, it's too common, and there are a lot of policies that we could actively change that would prevent this, things like closing the border, because there is a huge porous, I mean, I remember, Melania Trump, she got made fun of when she was talking about the coyotes on that recorded tape and how that was an issue. I mean, the left-wing media is like, what does she think's happening, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't have to say anything about it, but the fact that you're even going out of your way to discredit this problem, it's very suspicious. That's all I'll say. It's very suspicious.
They're protecting their own. Like that's how the left operates for that. And mind you, that guy's name was Miles Klee, the Rolling Stone guy, who locked down his Twitter account like a pussy because he couldn't take the flack of like, you mean to tell me girls twerking is a coming of age in a culture? Like, what the hell?
Would you qualify that as hoe tendency for him
that's
to?
That's a big time hoe tendency.
Okay,
yeah.
Rob, I just sent you something on how grooming works. Check this out. If you can show this meme here, Rob, I just text you and I put it on your computer. So the question then becomes the following, right? We got 5 more minutes here before we wrap up. I wish we had more time, and we got like so many freaking stories to go through, but I got 11 o'clock, max 7 call. So if you can pull this up, does this work? Is this an effective strategy? Well, here we go. Let me just show you this picture here from a kid in 2015 to 2022. That's the kid on the left, now grown man on the right. Bingo. Grooming works. It's actually very effective strategy. And yes, you can convert due to your environment. I did a video on the history of LGBTQ,
the dark history,
and I got a lot of messages about it. People say, Pat, I don't know if you should upload this. If you haven't seen that clip, I suggest you go watch it because it tells you how it got started and how it was categorized just in 1973, 50 years ago, and what's been happening with this level of growth and conversion of people by generations. You know how they say the older generation doesn't give a shit? They're like, the older generation doesn't give a shit what you think about them. Like, dude, if they're going to smoke weed, guess what? Who the hell are you? I'm 75 years old. I don't give a shit what you think about me. Who cares more, the younger generation or the older generation about what other people think?
The younger 1,000%.
Of course, the older generation doesn't give a shit. Do you know traditionalists? What percentage of traditionalists? This is a generation before boomers. You know what percentage of traditionalists are gay? 1.7%. Do you know what percentage of Gen Z is gay?
25%.
19.7%.
Wow.
So the generation that cares more about what people think. You haven't seen this? Pull this up, Rob.
Well, I saw the Bill Maher thing
The generation that doesn't give a shit about what you and I think, only 1.7% of them are gay. The generation that gives a shit about what everybody thinks, 20% is gay. Oh, it's not because of environment they're born this way. Well, yeah, you're totally right.
There are studies that also
20%?
disprove.
You haven't seen this?
I don't know if you in your video talk about the twin studies that they've done. So they do studies, or they did some studies on identical twins. So if sexuality is inherent, you're born with it, it's in your DNA, you would expect that 100% of identical twins would share a sexuality, i.e. both gay, both straight, what have you. But what they've actually found is that that is not the case. There are many, many examples of identical twins that have different sexualities, indicating that for at least some people, there is a nurture aspect of it. And what's really interesting is that women, more so than men, were likely to have a different sexual identity than their identical twins. So that means that women's sexuality, or whatever you might call it, is even more fluid than that of men's. And when we see the explosion in LGBT identities, guess what? It's mainly in young teen girls who are saying they're bisexual, they're pansexual, they're gender fluid, or whatever it is.
But by the way, this is the poll from 2021. The one I quoted was from 2023, but even better. Look at this, Gen Z, 20.8% identify as LGBTQ. Look at traditionalists before 1946, 0.8. The 0.8 doesn't give a shit about what we think. Less than 1% of them are gay, okay? The Gen Z that cares about what everybody thinks about them, 1 out of 5.
Well, I think there's a recent report that says for Brown University, I want to say, I don't know if it's that specifically, but 40% of students identify as LGBT.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.